national championship finalist. Doesn't want to hear that, okay? But you get it. A man who has obviously flipped a university back into what we've all expected it to be. Bunch of dogs, great football, hell of a fan base. And oh my God, can that coach beat the shit out of every other coach? Potentially. Ladies and gentlemen, the head coach of the Miami Hurricane football team, Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, coach.
What's up, dudes?
Hola, mi amigo. ¿Qué pasa?
Your Spanish is still brutal.
I thought I nailed that. Didn't it sound pretty smooth? I thought it was pretty smooth there. Muchas gracias for your compliments, obviously. And we will just talk about football, I guess, in English because for the audience, not for us, obviously. How is training camp going? How's the team? Obviously, high expectations now for any team you're coaching at Miami. I think what you've done over the last 2 years has put expectation levels forever very high. Congratulations on that. How do you feel about this year's team? I don't want to say trying to keep up with last year's team, but separate themselves from last year while also being great.
Yeah, it's a 2026 team, and we've made that clear. No one, this is not last year's team, tied into last year's accomplishments, and it's about as hot and as muggy as it can get. And we have taken everybody, every player, every coach, all the way to the edge. And we still got 2 weeks to do some more. And there's been a lot of progress and a lot more to be done. But it's been a physical camp. We've knocked each other around really good, and we do feel like we're building more competitive depth, but miles to go, man. You know, you see a lot of great stuff, but miles to go.
Okay, so you talk about, it's muggy, it's hot. We're battling. It's a different team than last year. And we just saw a clip of Ruben Bain at Tampa Bay Buccaneer practice an hour afterwards, kind of working the hoop and working the drill. And he gave a stat today, I believe, about the number of stats he had last year in the fourth quarter versus every other quarter. And then we think during pro days or recruiting visits, I forget what it was, Bain was in his shoulder pads at the pool talking to, like, the next class that was potentially coming here. The culture being instituted down there in Miami, a lot of distractions, obviously, down there in South Florida. But having that all-in dog fight, everybody mentality culture being in place, how comforting is that for you? And is that an everyday process still trying to beat it into folks like we just heard Coach Rod talking about what he's trying to establish at West Virginia?
Well, I think two things. Number one, you either create distractions or you just don't. I don't buy into that. There's a lot of distractions down here. I mean, you going off the high dive in a bikini underwear, that might cause distractions, Speedo. But you either choose distractions or you choose not to have them.
Okay, it's not a bikini, it was a Speedo. Thank you. Please have some respect, okay? It's a national champion.
You know, pal, what I think you would enjoy is that, Ruben Bain is still on the thread with all the defensive linemen, and he's in on tape. He's in on drill work, and he is absolutely ripping people's butts if they ain't doing it to the standard. And I think you're getting the same from Keontae Scott, C.J. Daniels, C.C. Mainoa. So it's almost like these guys have taken it upon themselves to become like culture enforcers, and that influence has been strong. Our guys feel it, and it's played out in a manner where we're getting better. This time you want to galvanize, right? You want to toughen up. You want to become more callous. You want to build resilience, and you want to find out what your identity is. Well, part of that is making sure that you're becoming callous, man. You could deal with all the crap that we throw at you during camp and fight through pain and discomfort. This certainly is not the time for ease and comfort, right?
Yeah, definitely not. And I think obviously it's worked for you quickly down there. And you talked about Ruben Bain still getting on everybody about what the culture is at Miami and what you guys have established. I think Coach Saban told the story about Julio Jones went back to Alabama and was working out, and he watched like a summer practice happen or something like that. And it was a bunch of wide receivers. And I guess Julio called him all over and said, this is not how this goes at all. And Nick Saban credits that for being how and why it took place. So your players doing that for you, congratulations. It's not an easy thing to accomplish. AJ has a question for you, Coach.
Yeah, Coach,
yes,
you mentioned you've taken your players and your coaches to the edge throughout this training camp so far. I guess, where is the edge? How do you know where the edge is to where you do have to maybe possibly back off a bit? We know it's crazy hot down there. It's physical. It's what you do. But, yeah, where do you draw the line?
Everybody's got to get better. I often I lose my mind when people say, well, you have to find players that love football. Well, that's bullshit. You got to find coaches that love football too, because if they love it, they'll do whatever it takes to be 1-0. And so we got to put coaches in adverse situations as well. I might put something on the script and blow the horn, say, no, man, coming out 1 yard line or going the other way, 4th and 1, after running some extra gassers or whatever. We have to test everybody. And when I say the edge, it's that point where you're going to have a breakdown or a breakthrough. And somehow, some way, we've got to coach, teach, guide, and then just flat out push to get a breakthrough, right? That's the only way to get better. And the more competition we create, like legitimate competition, not just, BS stuff to throw this guy in there just to compete, but like create like dogs getting after dogs, iron sharpens iron, and every possible drill we can. And then pitting the coordinators and the coaches against each other. I mean, the best part about it is watching the O-line, D-line coach beef, and watching the wide receiver coaches and the DB coaches.
10-second route right there. Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's almost like old school WrestleMania, like the like the Royal Rumble, right? It's just all kinds of chaotic noise, intensity, physicality going on, and in all that chaos, when everybody's losing their heads, we got to teach our people to keep their heads and play ball and play the next play. So really, really good stuff for camp. And again, we've improved a lot, but we're not where we need to be yet. We have a lot of work to do.
You're either going to have a breakdown or a breakthrough. That's a bar. Hey, listen, that was a bar. As it was coming out, you knew it was a bar, too. It was like, as I was saying. And you talk about pushing to the edge. Do you watch the gringos down there? Do we worry, because the sun is real down there. That is something that my particular Caucasoid, not good. I mean, I almost died doing game day down there. I couldn't imagine practice. I don't know if you'd ever recruit me down there, but, I would like a muchos gracias water break a little bit earlier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the heat index, it gets up there. I think we had 107, 110 or whatnot. But, we're mindful of it. We do it strategically and smart. But, I mean, there are going to be games that we are playing in that kind of stuff. So you have to get after it, man. You can handle it. You've already proven that. It's your kind of stuff, man.
Well, it's a huge advantage. We talk about it in the NFL a lot, like teams that go in the north that have to travel down to Miami in the season. Humidity is just a completely different conditioning animal. Feels like you guys training in there certainly helps going forward. Let's talk about some of the team now that you have.
But
go
ahead.
What?
I do want to add, if I could, for 1 second. If you look at Miami's their national record for home wins, 58 home wins in a row, right? In those years, I think the last one was 1994, if I'm not mistaken. Well, back then, you weren't relegated to TV times and kickoffs. You chose your home kickoff times. Well, about 85%, 95% of those were at noon down here in South Florida. And you can imagine teams traveling here where there's 510 heat index. That plays a big role, man.
Yeah. Hey, we're close to the equator here. Yeah, noon, that thing's right up. There's nowhere to hide. That is a Caribbean city down there.
Oh, yeah.
It is hot as. That's what I'm talking about. You get a team from Big Ten travel down there, looking like my ass down there. We're turning tomato red before the game even starts. That's quite an advantage. That is quite an advantage. Now you guys got to play prime time because everybody's expecting you to continue to go on a run. You got a quarterback from the ACC champs. Go ahead, Ty.
Yeah, Coach, how impressed have you been with Darian Mensah so far? A lot of the reports, and again, we're not down there, so who knows? You kind of take everything with a grain of salt, but they've talked about how impressive he's been, how unreal, like almost picking up right where you guys left off last year. So how impressed have you been with him, and how has the team kind of, taken to him, being that it is his first year there?
He's a dog, man. He really is. I mean, we've been lucky, and I feel like it's a broken record type of scenario. He's another guy that absolutely has no worries or concerns about personal accolades. He wants to win. He wants to see his teammates do well. He is relentless about getting in here, watching film, pushing himself, pushing his teammates. Insane energy. Like you can't get him in a bad mood. And then what he does on the field between pocket presence, awareness, delivering the ball on the money, knowing where to go with the football. Another guy that understands the line of scrimmage really, really well. Can get to the right play, run or pass, autonomy, in his hands as it relates to the offense. This guy is special. And again, he's a special human being. He's very, very driven. All he's worried about is going 1-0, man.
Yeah, 1-0 would be great. He's got a guy he's throwing the ball to that might be one of one. Go ahead, Con Man.
Yeah, Coach, talking about Malachi Toney, it feels like he took over college football immediately last year. What have you seen from him year one to year two? You talk about culture, guys. It feels like he's one of the hardest workers. Has he grown his game, and how big has he been for Mensah and him coming in right away and having that weapon?
Yeah, you should follow him around one day. By the way, he did tell me he wanted to send you guys some book bags. He has some pretty cool book bags.
Yeah, we'd like. I love book bags. I love going to class with them.
You absolutely never went to class, but anyways, we'll get those book bags.
Yo, soy, super academia, dude.
Yep.
Malachi Toney is, man. Okay. Again, he's just different. I feel like again we're blessed with a bunch of dudes that get it. The best part about him, he thinks he's nowhere near his potential. Like that guy is relentless in his pursuit to be the absolute best he can be. The thing you'll like about him, he's about 12 pounds heavier. Like, he is rocked up. His XL, decel rate, stop and go rate, and just flat out top end speed have reached new personal bests. So where you can expect a better version of Malachi Tony this year.
And he keeps working off season, you know. He yo soy por bibliotech too. A lot of that.
He was at the library, wasn't he?
He's been doing a lot of that. I know.
He was working with JSN.
See, dude.
In jean shorts.
Yeah, see. Yes,
Remember
he
that?
was. He was down at Antonio Brown's wide receiver camp, I think, wearing like 3/4 length jean shorts, just cutting everybody up. It was unbelievable watching the work ethic from all of your guys. Last question has to be brought up. Yeah. You're not going to like it. You are not going to like what is about to be asked, but it has to be asked. This is College Football Showcase. Tone has the last question for you.
Yeah, Coach, I love that this fell on me because you know, and I know that the ACC is not down, but the national narrative is that the ACC is down. I know there's a lot of good teams. There's Clemson, there's Louisville, there's SMU, there's still all the Virginia Tech is back. I know it all, so I don't have to tell that to you. But the national narrative is that the ACC is down. Does that put any pressure on you when people say, "Oh, Miami's got to go 11-1 or 12-0 to make the playoffs"? Does that creep into your brain at all during this?
No, I think my parents were wiring me differently. I think people that live their lives in narratives and predictions and all that bullshit, they think they fail the human race and their kids. I think you look at the record of the ACC in the postseason and the way we played, and look at the end of the day, we had a good run. We didn't finish it, but our losses came against teams in our conference. And I think it's at some point in time we got to see things for what they are instead of creating narratives like, I'm offended when they say Miami should have beat these teams. Well, maybe those teams are really good teams that we should have looked at in a more prestigious light. There's really good football. There's really good coaching. Schematically, there's all kinds of great, and it's a league of great quarterbacks as well, where at the end of the day, call it what it is, who had the most trench players drafted in the first round? The ACC did. So proud to be a member of the conference. Looking forward to another great year. And as far as narratives, brother, don't get me started, please.
Okay, you kind of did get started there a little bit. I thought we did have you started. I really did. And you said, all right, okay. I've said it's bullshit.
I got Cam over here like throwing papers
come on.
at me like, dude, chill.
Come on. Now's not the time. You're the man. We appreciate you taking time and joining us. Good luck this year. We'll see you down the road, hopefully very soon.
Appreciate you guys. Go Canes. Have a great one, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Coach Cristobal.
Yeah, Coach.